So good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and get started as people are making their way in for this second session. I'd love to introduce our next speaker, Kim Hoff. Kim will be talking about nutrition and PD, and then afterwards we're going to have a little bit of time for some question, a little bit of Q&A time like we've been doing. Here's a little bit about Kim. Kim currently practices here at Mercy Hospital, and she has worked as a pharmacist at CVS in Wentzville. Interestingly enough, Kim has 9 degrees, 9 degrees, and 6 certifications in the areas of pharmacy, exercise science, public health, and nutrition. She graduated from St. Louis College of Pharmacy in 2002 and enjoys providing education in a variety of settings. Let's put your hands together and please welcome Kim Hoff.
All right, how's everybody doing today? Good. Okay, so I'm a very interactive speaker, so I like to get my group involved with me, okay? So we're going to do a little math in this session, and we're going to talk, and I'm going to ask questions, and you guys can just shoot out the answer if you know it, and we're going to have a lot of fun, okay? So we're going to talk about nutrition today. What do you guys think about nutrition when I say that? Does it worry you? Do you think, oh my God, I'm not doing the best? Yeah. Well, the first thing I want to present to all of you is I want to make sure that you give yourself grace. No matter what age you're at, no matter what ailment you have, I want to make sure that you understand that aging is a process, and we all go through it, and I want to spend some time here for a few seconds just explaining what happens to your body as we age and how nutrition can help this when we get to that part, okay? So first off, in our blood, what do you think is going on with our blood as we age? What happens? Anybody help me out with this? So what'd you say? Sluggish, yeah. So the blood flow does start to decrease. That is one thing that happens. We don't have quite as many red blood cells. The replenish time takes much longer. Our white blood cell count goes down, so we get sicker a lot easier, okay? What happens with our heart? What's going on with our heart as we age? It works harder, and it produces less, right? So we have to work a little harder. Plus our vessels start to shrink. Our vessels start to get more restrictive. So the ejection that's coming out of it takes a lot more time. So it makes us a lot more sluggish. Oxygen doesn't get everywhere it needs to go as quickly as possible. Same thing, what's going on with our lungs? What do you think's happening in our lungs? The gas exchange is less. The surface area for the gas exchange is a lot less than it used to be. The bronchioles also are very restrictive. This is all happening as we age, okay? I just want to explain what is going on. Renal conditions in our kidneys, what do you think is happening there? Do you guys realize how important your kidneys are? They control all your electrolytes, your potassium, your magnesium, your sodium. That's all controlled by the kidney. Also, your vitamin D level is controlled by your kidney. Also, your blood pressure is controlled by your kidney. So what happens is those tubules start to restrict. They start to get shorter. They start to shrink. So they're not doing the filtering as well as they used to. What about in the gastrointestinal area? What do you think is going on there? Sluggish, just kind of slows down, right? Our gastric transit time takes a lot longer for the food to move through, right? Constipation, that becomes very common. Did you guys know that your taste buds, you lose your sense of taste? That can happen. Also, your thirst response diminishes. So all this is happening, okay? Endocrine system, this controls your entire body, your thyroid, your hormones, all this starts to deplete. What about sleep? Anybody in here struggle with sleep? So it takes longer to fall asleep, right? And we have a hard time staying asleep, correct? Okay, now the main area that I want to focus on here is in the brain, okay, the cognition. Because with Parkinson's, as we progress in those stages, in the later stages, it starts to affect our executive functioning, which is right up here in the frontal lobe. Does anybody know what your executive functioning is responsible for? Thinking, planning, making decisions. Yeah, so it's organizing, it's processing, it's planning, it's memory, it's insight, it's judgment. So as we go through stages of life, the connections up there start to diminish. We have this electrical system in our body, and it's insulated, right? Has anybody heard of the term myelin before? Myelin coats that, and as we get older, the myelin starts to diminish. It starts to get less effective, and so the connections get crossed. They're not as productive. And that also happens as we progress in Parkinson's. So we're going to talk a little bit about how nutrition can help with that. But I want you also to understand, I'm not sure about my audience here. I don't know how long many of you have been suffering with Parkinson's or what years stage or how many years you've been experiencing it, but you're probably familiar with the normal pathology, right, which is where we know that the dopamine has been decreased within the substantial nigra, which is in the brain. And as we progress, we know that there's a lot of motor developments that change, a lot of rigidity, also a lot of tremors, gait changes, but as we progress further, cognitive decline and even dementia become a part of it. I know Dr. Gilbert had talked a little bit about neuroinflammation also being part of the pathology, and there are ways in nutrition that we can actually limit the inflammation in our diet. There's actually ways in our diet that we can actually promote dopamine production. So we're going to talk about all of these. What I want you guys to think about is when we energize our bodies and we stay energetic, how are we feeling? Like, what kinds of things do we feel when we're in that positive energy state? Happy. Alert, focused, compassionate. Yeah, whereas versus on the other side, we're more irritable, we're more anxious, we're more depressed, lethargic. Nutrition can actually help us stay in that positive state. So we're going to get started right now talking about nutrition and how it helps with all of everything that I've discussed previously. So we're going to talk about macronutrients, we're going to talk about micronutrients, we're going to talk about a couple different diets. So I want, first of all, do you guys know when I say macronutrients, what is a macronutrient? Can anybody name a macronutrient for me? Carbohydrates, perfect. Fat, protein, absolutely. So we are made up of all of that, okay? We're made up of fats, we're made up of protein, we're made up of carbohydrates. Does anybody know what the number one thing is that we're made up of? Yes, 70% of our body is water, absolutely. So a lot of you have probably heard different diets that can be eaten while you have Parkinson's. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of evidence out there that says there's a specific diet that is the magic diet. So we're still going to talk about ways that we can help, wouldn't say necessarily slow down the progression, but help with the symptoms and to help keep you in that energized and promote basically the quality of life and optimize your quality of life. So some of the diets you'll hear are the MIND diet, some of them you'll hear is the Mediterranean diet, some of them you'll hear is the DASH diet. All of these basically are combined together, say the same thing. The MIND diet focuses a little bit more on like berries and nuts. The Mediterranean diet focuses more on your green leafy vegetables as well as your fish products and your good lean sources of protein. And then your DASH diet focuses basically on all those two combined, but then it puts a spin on it and basically decreasing the amount of sodium that you take in. You want less than 1.2 to 2.3 grams of sodium. So the first macronutrient that we're going to focus on right now is carbohydrates. What do you guys think of when I say carbohydrate? Bread, rice, addiction. That's a good one. So carbohydrates, we have to have carbohydrates, okay, no matter what. Our body is about 65% carbohydrates. I think they get a bad rep because a lot of times everybody's like, cut them completely out. So it is true, if you are trying to lose weight and you're trying to maintain your sugar levels a lot better, and keep you more on a maintained state rather than going up and down, that we should limit the amount of carbs that we take in. But we cannot completely deplete the amount of carbs that we have. Carbs are our fastest fuel source, okay? Does anybody know how many calories? I know it's on my slide, but how many calories is 1 gram of carb? 4, okay? 4. They deliver into the bloodstream the fastest compared to any other macronutrient that we take or that we ingest. The important thing about carbs is basically we want to make sure that when we go to the store and we pick out a carb source, and we read the nutrition label, the most important thing that we want to focus on is the sugar level and the fiber level. So it is really important as a Parkinson's patient that we get more fiber than we do more sugar, okay? Fiber is sugar, but it helps, basically it's a complex carb, and that's what we're looking at, is a complex carbohydrate. So you're looking at like your brown rices, you're looking at your brown breads, you're looking at your fruits. I get a lot of questions about how many carbs should I have a day. Does anybody have any questions about that? Anybody heard that before? Like, how many carbs should I really ingest per day? Anybody have an idea? 100? I mean, it is very individualized, yes. Simple and complex. I mean, yes, so your central nervous system basically needs, it only works on carbs, your central nervous system. So like your nervous system, your brain, all that works on carbs. So I'm gonna do a little math here. It is known that basically for every hour, there are 6 grams of carbs that are taken up by your central nervous system, okay? So if we take 24 hours in a day and we multiply that by 6, anybody got that number? 144, perfect. So 144 grams of carbs is basically what your central nervous system needs to work each day. That's without any other activity. That's just for your central nervous system. But let's say, I'm sorry, what'd you say? I mean, yes, your weight is based on that, but overall, that's what your central nervous system uses. So when the weight part comes in, I'm gonna talk about that. That's the next thing I'm gonna talk about. So think about, overall, we have about 100 grams of carbs that are floating around in our bloodstream. We have about 100 grams of carbs that are floating around in our liver, and we have about 300 grams of carbs that are floating around in our muscles. So if we were to completely, let's say, not intake any carbs at all, okay? If we were not to intake any carbs at all, and we know that our central nervous system uptakes about 144 carbs a day, when would we be depleted completely? 500 divided by 144? It's about 3 or 4 days. My point here is I just want to make sure that you understand that when your body gets into the state of depletion, it switches fuel sources, okay? I don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but it will switch into a fuel source where it will actually start to burn fat, which technically is a healthier fuel source to burn, but at the same time, we can start to get very lethargic, okay? And our body can start to reset our metabolism. And so all of a sudden, now we're burning the same amount as we were before. So my point is, I just want to make sure that you understand that carbs are still important in the diet. Life is about moderation, life is about balance, but we can err on the side of lesser amount if we're trying to drop the weight or we're trying to maintain more of our sugar level. And we should always focus on complex no matter what. So when you're looking at a nutrition label, you want to make sure that it's less than 5 grams of sugar and it's more than 3 grams of fiber. So if you're looking at like your day, I don't know, like if you guys are snack eaters or if you're, how many of you here like to eat snacks? So basically, like, we want to average out about, anywhere from 15 grams to 30 grams of carbs per snack. Meal is 30 to 60. If you're trying to maintain more of your sugar level or lose the weight, we err on the lower side. Carbs provide the fastest fuel source. Based on circadian rhythm, most of us wake up about 6, 7, 8 in the morning. Most of us start to go to bed around 9, 10. So it's always best to get those carbs earlier in the day than later in the day so that we can use them for the energy. Does that make sense? Anybody have questions about carbohydrates? Bottom line here is complex carbs is what we are going for. The more fiber, the better. If we think, how many of you in here are fruit eaters? How many of you here like to eat the skin on the fruit? What is the benefit of the skin? Fiber, perfect. So for example, if I am delivering, let's say if I have a banana that has 20 grams of carbs and I have an apple that has 20 grams of carbs, both of them a medium size. What do you think is the difference if I eat the skin on the apple versus we can't eat the skin on the banana? It's delivering the same amount of carbs, but do we know what the difference is? Exactly, the rate at which it's absorbed into the bloodstream. And that is very beneficial because that helps keep us maintained. And as a Parkinson's patient, a lot of times you have, like Dr. Gilbert was saying, the on and off symptoms. You also have times where you're very lethargic. So we don't want to play into that with our carbs where we're going up and down consistently. So we want to keep it maintained as possible. So the next macronutrient that we're going to focus on is protein. What do you think protein, or why do you think protein is beneficial for us? Helps rebuild, helps repair, helps keep us satisfied when we eat, helps maintain and regulate our blood sugar. What do you think is a good amount of protein to have per day? All right, we're going to do a little math. So I want you guys to take your body weight right now. Everybody have the body weight in their head? All right, I want you to divide that by 2. That's basically how many grams of protein that you should have a day. Some people need more, some people need a little less, but that's on average how many grams of protein. What is the single best source of protein? Anybody know that? Eggs. Yes, absolutely. The single best source of protein is eggs. Eggs do not deliver a lot of protein, and you're going to get the protein in the white of the egg, but it's 100% bioavailable, and it's able to be building blocks for all the protein and all the amino acids that we need in our body. I'm sorry?
This year, it's okay to eat.
Yeah, it's okay. A lot of people really, really enjoy eggs, and so they get worried because cholesterol, right? So I always tell patients or my clients that if you're a person that loves eggs, which I do, so I like to take like 2 whole eggs and then 2 egg whites. So just make it even. Or if you eat 2 eggs at a time, do 1 egg white and do 1 whole egg. Okay? And so that helps out. What other sources of protein are there? Meats. Nuts. Nuts are more in fats, and we'll talk about them. What do you think, like on my slide here? We got fish, chicken, turkey. All of those are great sources. How many of you here are red meat eaters? Okay. So red meat is not that you cannot have red meat. What is the bad reputation behind eating red meat? The fat, the saturated fat, exactly, or the trans fat. But if we cook it differently, we can get that out of there, right? And it's just if we eat it in moderation, because there's great sources of iron in red meat that our body actually needs. So I know a lot of you have questions about protein probably interacting with some of the meds that you're on, one particular being the carbidopa levodopa. So I just want to explain, I don't know, I want you to understand that do not cut out protein completely just because you're on that medication. What happens is the levodopa is the part of that medication that needs to cross into the blood-brain barrier in order to help with the production of the dopamine. And what happens is if it likes friends, okay, right? Levodopa wants to have friends. So if protein is around, it's its best friend. And so it kind of inhibits its absorption into the blood-brain barrier. So the best way to help with that is to separate out when you eat the protein. So I know a lot of you are probably taking those medicines every 4 hours. There are extended release versions you can use. But in addition to that, if that doesn't work and you're stable on the every 2 hour, every 4 hour, then just space out your protein intake by about an hour from that intake of that medicine. And you're gonna avoid the problems. So I wanted to kind of address that because I think that was a lot of questions that some people may have about the protein. The other macronutrient that we're gonna focus on is fat. And somebody already over here mentioned nuts. So nuts are very good sources of fat. What does fat do for us? What'd you say? Yes, it insulates us. It also helps with conductions in the brain. So as a Parkinson's patient, this is one food source that is good to help with the cognition improvements. Fish oil. Anybody in here use fish oil? Anybody in here like salmon? Yes, well, salmon is actually a great source of protein. You're gonna get the highest amount of protein from salmon, but it has a dual benefit of added fats, which is very helpful with those conductions that are going on in the brain. The neurotransmitters and all that helps with decreasing some of the reduction in some of the serotonin levels. Some things that happen as we have these ailments, we get depressed, and that makes a difference in the quality of our life. So fish oil is really beneficial with that. Fats also, like she said, it builds hormones. It builds all the hormones that we have in our body as well. Anybody know how much fat we should have in a day? So fats actually each gram of fat delivers the most calories. So 1 gram of carb delivers 4 calories, and I forgot to mention it, but 1 gram of protein delivers 4 calories. Here, 1 gram of fat will deliver 9 calories for 1 gram of fat. So when we talk about fat, we want to just stay away. Our body is about 25 to 30% fat. We want to make sure that we stay away from the saturated fat. So our diet is about 15 to 20% fat is what we're looking at with fats. Anybody have any questions about fat? All right, the hugest source that our body is made up of, yes?
About the fish oil, what's the best source of fish oil? I know it's like if you walk down the aisles, there's all kinds of...
Straight omega-3 is the best, without any omega-6 or omega-9s, because the omega-6 and 9, if it's not put in the right proportion with the 3s, can actually increase inflammation, and we don't want to do that, especially in a condition where we already can have neuroinflammation. So straight omega-3. Water is how many of you here drink water? Okay, so I wish that I could say that I do, but I have a really hard time drinking water. I have to have something mixed in with it to help me drink the water. So we're 70%. What do you think water does for us? Helps with keeping things flushed out, helps speed up our metabolism, helps our skin to look glowy, beautiful, helps with our kidneys, do you realize that it also helps with cognition? Because when we start to feel thirsty, we're already 2% dehydrated. When we are 2% dehydrated, we start to feel lethargic, we start to not think correctly, we start to have a hard time focusing, we may not make as best decisions, our insight may be a little bit impaired, judgment may be a little bit impaired. So how much water do we need a day? Let's do some math again. So take your body weight again. Everybody have that in their head? And divide that by 2. That's how many ounces technically of water that you need per day. So how many mils are in an ounce? Any bakers in here? Cookers? Yes, 30, exactly. So for most people, you think like a 150-pound person, right? Divide that by 2, 75 ounces a day, 75 times 30 is about 2 liters, over 2 liters. So I know that you're thinking, oh my gosh, that's so much. But technically, that is if your body is getting that, it's going to flush it out. It's going to help with your metabolism. The only time we have to be concerned about drinking too much water is an athletic individual. If they're not supplementing their electrolytes with the water, they can get a washout. Also, if you have any kind of renal conditions, we have to be cautious with that. Or if you have congestive heart failure, we have to be cautious with the amount of intake. Other than that, your body compensates and can get rid of that excess water. So now we've kind of gone through all the macronutrients. I also wanted to focus on the micronutrients. These are the vitamins, the minerals, and the trace elements that we need. So when we talk about the micronutrients, we know our vitamins are A, D, E, K, right? C. So there are some that are fat soluble, there's some that are water soluble. Can anybody tell me some of which ones are different? What are the fat soluble ones? Perfect, right. So minerals, calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium are some of the biggest. Trace elements are iron and zinc. So zinc helps boost immune system. Okay, we know that during the times of when we go through infection and flu season and all that, zinc will help with immune support. Vitamin C also helps with immune support. Vitamin C is also very important for stress management. So if you're as a Parkinson's patient or anybody that has an ailment, our body is already in a stressed out state. So having vitamin C is very beneficial for that. Plus it also helps immune support. D is also another vitamin that's very important. It helps basically, in most individuals when we have lower vitamin Ds, we're dealing with bone issues, but a lot of people forget that vitamin D actually also helps with depression. So when our vitamin D level goes low, we can also become depressed. That can affect our cognition as well and our quality of life. So it's important to make sure that we have enough of that as well. And obviously, I want to focus probably the most in terms of vitamins on the Bs, vitamin Bs. How many of you here take vitamin B? Okay, the complex vitamin B. There's vitamin B1, vitamin B2, vitamin B3, B5, B6, B12. So the biggest focus for Parkinson's patients with vitamin B is the 6 and the 12. But you can get that in a complex. You don't have to take it individually. And you can get a lot of that already in your food. But what these vitamin Bs do is a lot of them help with carbohydrate and protein metabolism. But the 6, believe it or not, actually helps with dopamine production, which is something that is missing in a Parkinson's patient. So it does help build that. You can get the 6 from things like avocados. You can get the 6 from eggs. You can get the 6 from bananas. B12 helps with alertness, it helps with focus, helps with cognition, helps with memory. And where do you think we can get vitamin B12 from? What's a good source of vitamin B12? It's kind of an odd source. It's actually found in animal liver. Any of you guys in here like to eat liver? Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent source of vitamin B12. But you can also get B12 in green leafy vegetables, refined, like a lot of your grains. You can also find B12 in that as well. You don't have to do a supplement. So we've gone through the micronutrients, we've gone through the macronutrients. Just overall, I wanted to let you know, like once again, I'm just gonna make a full circle here. There's no magic diet for Parkinson's. There's really no magic diet for anything. And I hate to say the word diet because life is about balance. Life is about moderation. We can't restrict all of our favorite stuff. But the bottom line is what they've seen so far, which is pretty much the common theme, is that we want to stay away from saturated fats. We want to stay away from like a lot of processed foods, a lot of excess sugar. We want to get our lean sources of protein as much as possible. We want to make sure that we stay hydrated. We want to make sure that if we're eating our fruits, we want to get those bright red greens, or not greens, but bright red blues fruits to help with those antioxidants for us. And our whole grains need to be with increased amounts of fiber instead of just your overall processed sugars. So it's kind of like a lot of what you already know. I'm just reinforcing that. And this slide here, just kind of what I want you to see out of this slide is not necessarily the numbers. I don't want you to focus on the numbers because I think we become obsessive with that sometimes. What I want you to see is the trends. As we get older, obviously the calorie amount is going to decrease, right? And I also want you to notice that, females versus males, there's going to be a difference. Males are going to have more, females are going to have less. But what I really want you to focus on is notice how the protein amount barely changes as we go. Okay, because as we get older, unfortunately, we fatten up and we dry up. So we almost become into a catonic state where we are what they call sarcopenia, and we start to lose muscle, and that slows down our metabolism. So we want to keep that muscle up. We want to keep that built. We want to keep our metabolism up. So our protein should really stay pretty consistent. What we actually need to kind of drop back on is more of our carbs and more of our fats. But it's actually more of our carbs than our fats as well. So I wanted just to kind of bring this last slide because I know our next speaker is on exercise, and I'm just kind of pumping them up and getting them ready. But we all know the exercise also goes hand in hand with nutrition, right? How many of you in here exercise on a daily basis? Perfect. Walking is the single best exercise. I just want to give you the benefits. I could go on forever. I mean, it helps with blood pressure, it helps with glucose control, it helps with mood, it helps with bone development, it helps build muscle, it helps you sleep better. There's tons of benefits with exercise. But I just wanted to kind of introduce the next speaker into that. So any questions?
This is fantastic, and I love, we'll start taking questions. And I love because you said exercise and nutrition, it goes together because they both work together. So there's some that you guys have ahead of time, but here, question, Neil.
Regarding the water, I'm like you, I don't like plain water. And what I use is a flavored just a lime lemon flavored, and it has a little carbonation in it. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, I oftentimes, I'm a big Propel drinker, okay, because it does have flavor and it has those electrolytes in there as well, and it helps make me feel replenished. The only thing I caution, there's also a drink, I don't know if you guys go to Costco or if you guys go to Sam's, but there's a drink there that's called the Eco Drink, and it is absolutely amazing. It's got vitamin B in it, it's got vitamin C in it, there's no caffeine, and it's got your electrolytes, and it comes in tons of different flavors. It's called Eco, E-C-O, and it's awesome, and it doesn't have the caffeine. A lot of us, I know, go back and, it's like we go up with caffeine, then we go down, then we go up, and then we go down, and so we want to keep that maintained. It doesn't have that caffeine in there. It just has the vitamin Bs, the Cs, and then the electrolytes, and it has great taste. So if you have a hard time getting water down, that's a great supplement there.
As a type 1 diabetic, I would like to see you change your slide to decreases type 2 diabetes development.
What do?
I'm a type 1. I was diagnosed all the way back in 1962. And on your...
Here?
No, the next slide. The last one you had up there, down at the bottom.
This one?
No.
The exercise one?
Yeah.
This one?
No.
This
The
one?
The very second to last one says decreases diabetes development.
Oh, okay.
There are 5 different types of diabetes, 4 of them which cannot be prevented, and type 2 can possibly be prevented. So if you would just change your slide to type 2 diabetes.
Perfect, yeah, I appreciate that.
And I want to make sure we get to some questions that folks that registered asked. One is, what about plant-based diet? There's a lot of talk about plant-based diet. What are your thoughts on that?
So does anybody in here do just plant-based diets? I mean, you can get a lot of your nutrition just from plants. So what do you normally eat? Spinach? Mm-hmm. Is it mostly spinach, beans? Yeah. Yeah, you can eat plant-based diet. There's nothing wrong with that. The only thing that we caution you is that you make sure you're getting enough. Because the problem with the plant-based diets is they don't have as much protein. So for example, if I'm gonna eat a normal serving size of chicken, I'm gonna get about 20 grams of protein, okay? If I'm gonna eat a hamburger, I'm gonna get about 30 grams of protein. If I'm gonna eat salmon, I'm gonna get about 35 grams of protein. But if I'm gonna eat spinach, I'm only gonna get about 6 grams of protein, unless I increase my portion size. So you can definitely do plant-based. I mean, there's a lot of bodybuilders, actually, that their entire diet is nothing but plant-based, because there's so many vitamins and minerals that you get from the plant, from the vegetable, that it's worth it to eat just the plant-based. I could never do that because I like chicken too much, I like fish too much, but yeah, you definitely can do it. There's nothing wrong with it. The only caution is make sure that your portion sizes, either eat more of the frequent meals throughout the day, or make sure your portion sizes on those are a little more so you're getting the amount of protein that you need.
Yes, I was wondering, I bake a lot. Instead of using real sugar, I use artificial sugar. Is that better or worse?
I don't know if I understood that question.
So like artificial sweeteners.
Oh, yes.
What's your thought about that versus just straight sugar?
Okay, so I do an actual whole talk on artificial sweeteners. You have to be cautious with them because they do have a lot of sugar alcohols, which can cause a lot of gastrointestinal complications. Basically, the only difference between an artificial sweetener and real sugar is it's still delivering the same amount of sugar, it's just the rate at which it gets delivered into the bloodstream. So in my opinion, when I tell, I usually say just limit the amount of sugar that you're putting in when you're baking. Say that again. Honey is absolute best. Yes, honey is the absolute best.
What about the CoQ10 supplement? Have any evidence of that being helpful?
Did you say the CoQ10?
Yes.
I am not a fan. I'm not a fan. I mean, it became really big because when people were using the cholesterol medicines, like the statins, and they were causing a lot of the muscle aches, they were saying that if you use this CoQ10, you can prevent that. But the problem with CoQ10 is there's been lots of studies that have actually shown that it can actually worsen heart conditions. So I'm very cautious about using that. That's not one of my, I do a whole talk on dietary supplements, and I have basically the biggest dietary supplements that I like to promote no matter what is vitamin C for stress support as well as immune support. Also fish oil, and that's very great for cognition as well as reducing inflammation. I'm a big vitamin B girl, B as in boy, because I think it really helps a lot with your alertness, your focus, your cognition, all that, executive functioning. Green tea, how many of you in here like green tea? Yeah, I'm a big green tea. That also helps with alertness. There is a amino acid that's in green tea called L-theanine that helps keep you alert, and it's less caffeine than your normal products. So I do think green tea is a big one. Sorry? The amino acid, the name of it, it's called L-theanine.
Along that similar, we had an registrant ask, what about alcohol, effects of alcohol, and what are your thoughts with that?
So alcohol in moderation, you know, for a man it's 2 drinks a day, for a female it's 1 drink a day. The thing with alcohol is that in a condition where the cognition can be impaired in certain situations, when we intake the alcohol, it's kind of what I call an agonist effect. It's an additive effect. So alcohol basically mimics a chemical in our brain called GABA. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that before, but GABA is this hormone that helps to kind of relax us. The problem is, as a Parkinson's patient, if I'm tailoring it more to my population, Parkinson patient has a lower amount of dopamine. Dopamine is used to help keep us energized. Dopamine is used to keep us motivated. Dopamine is used to help with motor development. So that's already impaired. So our GABA is already out of balance, right? So GABA helps relax us. GABA helps slows us down. So now you're adding alcohol on top of that, which is adding more onto the GABA, and you already don't have a sufficient level of dopamine to balance that out. So it's not that you can't have the alcohol, but you're gonna notice more sluggish effects. More impairment, more, once again, fogginess, lethargy.
Thank you. I've never heard it described like that, but thank you. That was helpful.
Yes, I'm a swimmer, and y'all seldom mention swimming as a good exercise. I swim 2.5 to 3.5 hours a day, and I just want your opinion.
Of swimming?
Yes.
Oh, I think it's amazing. It works basically every single muscle in your body, basically, it targets. Plus, it's also less impact. And as we get older, what happens with our joints is we lose the water. Like I said, we dry up and fatten up, unfortunately, so we lose the water that's in between the joints. And so when we try to do walking or running or the elliptical or anything like that, it can kind of rub and cause more pain. Swimming doesn't do that at all. So I think swimming is particularly awesome for anybody 65 and above. I think it's awesome for younger too, but we have more conditions as we get older, and so it's tailored more for that population. Yeah.
And all this lab-based food and all that, you know what I mean, GMOs, that wouldn't be helpful.
What type of food?
Like anything genetically modified or those
So,
lab-based. It's not even real food, Impossible Burgers and all that stuff. We don't even know what's in there.
I'm not, yeah, I mean, that is true. I mean, I am not a person that is, I think, once again, I take a stance of motivation or moderation on everything. I'm not all like it has to be all natural or it has to be all synthetic. I mean, I see where people come from with the chemicals and all the things that are on it and how it's not necessarily diminishing the value in terms of what nutrition you're getting, but it's what possibly the chemicals can cause, like cancer-related things or genetic alterations. So it's not like you're not getting the nutrition, but those are the side effects that could happen from just food that has not been I guess you would say, detoxed, kind of, and still like grown and all the chemicals are put on it kind of thing. Go. That is true. Yeah, that is true. Yes.
I noticed you didn't mention milk products or cheese or
dairy.
Yogurt. You're right, dairy products.
Okay, that is a good point. Yes, so on my fat slide, it's once again lower fat. But what do we think about? Okay, so some of the medications that we use in Parkinson's can cause constipation, right? Plus, as we get older, constipation. So dairy sometimes plays into that. It's not that you can't have dairy. Lower fat is the best. Because obviously we don't want to heighten the amount of saturated fat that we have. So the lower the fat, the better. How many of you guys in here like to snack at night? Snack eaters? Okay. So there is a really great source of a bedtime snack, okay? And I'm going to tell you, when you go to bed at night, we want to make sure that the insulin levels do not spike overnight, okay? So that means we have to keep our sugar levels level. So one way we can do that is we can eat, like, let's say some crackers with some cheese, or we can eat a banana with some peanut butter. That way we're getting both either fat or protein with that sugar, and we're maintaining that level. But an excellent source of a bedtime snack, how many of you in here like Greek yogurt? Okay. How many of you here like nuts? Okay. So I forgot to mention the hierarchy of nuts, so I will mention that here. So it's awesome because overnight we need calcium. We need magnesium to keep our muscles balanced. We need a balance of sugar and a balance of protein or fat. So Greek yogurt is perfect if you get the low-fat Greek yogurt because it has almost equal amounts of protein to sugar. Okay, so we're keeping that level. And then if you want to throw some almonds in there, guess what almonds have in them that are beneficial? Fat, but there's one mineral that it has. Anybody know what that mineral is? It has magnesium. Also, another dark chocolate has magnesium. So if you're a dark chocolate person, you can put a little bit of dark chocolate in with your yogurt, and you've got everything you need. You're getting your calcium, you're getting your magnesium, you're getting your even levels of sugar and protein and fat. So that's considered to be an excellent source of a bedtime snack. So let's talk about nuts real fast here, because I forgot to mention that. You guys, a lot of you in here like nuts, right? Okay, so there's a hierarchy of nuts of what delivers the best amount